However, we have some breaking news to share with you from overnight that could impact the trajectory of this war. Russia says it has taken over the town of Soledar, which is 6 miles north of Bakhmut, after what is being described as a bloody fight. Capturing Bakhmut is one of Moscow's main military objectives, and Soledar is pretty close to doing that. Ukraine denies Soledar has been captured, but reporters say they have observed Ukrainians retreating on the battlefield there. Joining us to provide some context and perspective to Russia's alleged victory is retired Major General William Enyart. How do you interpret this victory by Russia? Does it have strategic value?
Well, I think it's certainly getting a lot of attention right now because that's where the bulk of the fighting is going on in the country. But strategically, it really is not that important. You know, Odessa is important, Kyiv is important, Lviv is important. Ukrainian supply lines are strategically important. The primary importance of this 10,000 population small town is the fact that there's a salt mine there that Prigozhin, who owns the Wagner military group, wants to seize. He's taken control of mines using this Wagner group throughout Africa, and he views it as an economic gain. But strategically, it's really not of that much importance.
Is it not going to impact supply lines, though?
Not dramatically, not the way that Russia needs to impact supply lines. What Russia really needs to do is cut off the supply, cut off the flow of supplies coming in from the Western nations, coming in from NATO. And for that, Lviv is important. Lviv, of course, is the transshipment point really for, or near Lviv is the transshipment point for all of those weapons flowing in from NATO. It's really a tactically not that important a place.
When you bring up weaponry, you got to talk about Poland wanting to send some of these Leopard tanks in. They're not going to make that move until other allies do so as well. What are these Leopard tanks? How would they help?
Well, Leopard tanks are made in Germany. And in order to send them to Ukraine, Poland has to have Germany's permission. So far, Germany, much like the U.S., has resisted providing tanks to Ukraine. However, the British are now ready to supply some of their Centurion tanks, which are excellent tanks, but the Brits have only got about 225 of them. So they're proposing to send 10 or 15 tanks. Tanks are important because that will really enable Ukraine to go on an offensive mission against Russia. Certainly the provision of Bradley fighting vehicles by the U.S. To Ukraine is going to have an impact there. But in order to go to a really armored offensive, they need both tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles.
Right, and the Ukrainians are going to get the training on the Patriot missile system here in the United States as well, so add that to the list. After 3 months, Moscow has decided to replace its military commander in Ukraine again. The Pentagon had this to say. I want to share it with people at home and then get your thoughts.
I'm not going to speculate per se on how this might affect things on the battlefield in Ukraine, other than to say that it likely does reflect some of the systemic challenges that the Russian military has faced since the beginning of this invasion. And we've talked about some of those things in terms of its logistics problems, command and control problems, sustainment problems, morale, and large failure to achieve the strategic objectives that they've set for themselves.
Russia's got a lot to work through here. It seems like they're behind the ball. What do you think? Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, this turmoil in the very highest ranks of the Russian military certainly is going to have an impact, and it shows the problems that they're suffering. General Gerasimov is the chief of the general staff, so that's equivalent roughly to being chairman of the Joint Chiefs. They are putting him now in charge of an operational campaign. As the chief of the general staff, he's really responsible for the overall handling of the Russian military. So to assign him direct operational responsibility really detracts from his overall responsibilities. But I think the constant changes in the command structure show that Putin's displeasure with the Russian military failures in Ukraine. And number two, it shows the inability of the Russian senior military leadership, to rescue what has really been a completely short-sighted and ill-advised campaign plan. The Russians need to do a complete reset to get to a winning strategy.
Well, I don't know if this is good news or not, but Russia has called for a UN Security Council meeting next week to talk about Ukraine, so we'll be following that. Retired Major General William Enyart, thank you for your time this morning. As always, good to see you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.